here actually also to commemorate Master Khan. Don't know if all of you were students of his, maybe. But he would talk a lot about METTA. Well, that is nice because that is one of my main stories that I always have to tell about METTA, about loving kindness. Loving kindness is very interesting energy. The realization that loving kindness, once you reach the point where you ultimately can feel that energy flowing, then you realize that the more you give, the more starts to be created within yourself. So the more loving kindness you actually radiate, the more loving kindness will exist within you. Now you don't do it because of that reason. That's always a nice little philosophical thought, like, oh, so I do it so I get more. No, you do it because then you can give even more. So what is loving kindness? How can we look at loving kindness? Loving kindness is actually built up out of 4 factors. One of the factors is METTA, loving kindness itself. What does loving kindness mean? Well, it's the love that is without expectance. It's the love that doesn't expect anything back for it. It just is love, pure love. And you could call it a form of universal love. Second part of METTA is karuna. Well, karuna is actually an empathy feeling. So you know what occurs in the other person, and therefore you feel for that person, and through that empathy you would like it to become better, you would like to help, you would like to assist in that process. Thirdly, mudita. And mudita is always very hard to understand. It's always being explained as sympathetic joy. I always like to explain it a little bit. Truly exchanging yourself for the other as if you are the other. So, if you are truly the other person, how would you feel? Now this would help a lot, especially if you look at society, the things that are happening right now, in Europe, fugitives, in America, not letting the people from South America in. If you exchange yourself for the other person, as if you are the other person, you suddenly start to feel the way that person feels. So then you realize how it is to be in such a situation. But then the 4th aspect of loving kindness is the hardest. Because all those factors of loving kindness, so the loving kindness, the empathy, and the sympathetic joy, should come from a place where there is upekkha. And upekkha is equanimity. Equanimity means to be completely silent within and feel the full reflection of everything that's going on. And if you have the full reflection of what's going on, then you understand what is really happening. And you don't do it from a specific emotion anymore. There is no emotion involved in upekkha. It is a state of clear and pure being, so that whatever comes at you, you will realize as something that just occurs in this world. In order to come to equanimity, it is very important to understand the three characteristics of all phenomena in this world. There's three characteristics. One is sabbatama anicca, which means that all things that you can see that are created in front of you, that are part of this existence, will come up, peak, and ultimately fade away. All of them. And it doesn't matter which ones it is. Beautiful, we can look at, for instance, very ancient buildings in Greece. We can look at wonderful chedis in India, beautiful buildings. We can look at the pyramids and see that slowly they're decaying. No matter how huge we have built them and how much effort we put into them to try and make them continue on, ultimately they will fade away. Now, all the things that we see around us are of that same essence. Everything we see is of the essence of coming up, peaking, and fading away. And one of the places where we can really realize that very clearly is our own thoughts. Our own thoughts come up, they peak, and they fade away. And they do that constantly. But we can see it also, and in a more emotional way actually, is when it's about people we love. People we love come up, they peak, they fade away. Either they come into our lives and they love us, whatever that may be. They love us and they want to unite with us, and there is a wonderful moment there, and then slowly, after a while, it might fade away. A love affair peaks and fades away, but even if people have the most extreme, wonderful relationship, and they stay together all their lives, ultimately, they will fade away, because the body fades away. So even if they love each other enormously, that will fade away. That's deep realization, to realize that everything we can see is actually of that aspect. It comes up, it peaks, and it fades away. So realizing that that is the essence of all things makes you a little bit relaxed about the fact that that is what happens. So you don't have to go into the emotion of why did this happen to me? Question that many people ask themselves always when something terrible happens. Might it be a disease? Might it be a situation in their life? Why does this happen to me? Well, it's because it happens to everything and everybody all the time. It is an aspect of life. So that makes you more relaxed about that. If you view it for what it is and try to constantly view it and try to look at it and see it for what it is. See that everything comes up, it peaks, it fades away. There's nothing wrong about that. There's nothing terrible about that. It's just a matter that's clearly which you can see yourself. There's no problem with that. The second aspect of all the things that you can see is sabbatama dukkha. Because they come up, they peak, and they fade away, they have it in themselves to cause within you a certain state of dissatisfaction, or the very heavy word, suffering. I hardly ever use that word because I think, oh, now we're going into that suffering phase. Because that suffering is created by yourself. The suffering is created by yourself. If you didn't realize that something was going to come up, peak, and fade away, then that's what causes the suffering. If you realize that from the start, this is only temporarily, it will be a phase, and it's okay, then you realize that that will happen, and the suffering won't be so great. So it will just be a discomfort. Yes, of course, you still have emotions. Yes, of course, you still realize I love this person and now he's not here anymore. But on the other hand, you know that this was going to happen. Very interesting thing that we always do during funerals, for instance. We go to a coffin and we look at the body, and let's say this is a loved one, a loved uncle, a mother, a father, whatever it was, and you look in the coffin and you say, that's not that person anymore. Correct. That's not that person. We knew that from the start. This body is not us. That body is not that person. We are pure energy. And if we are pure energy, then that means that the energy just continuously goes on. It's just that there's a transformation going on. It's a transformation from one energy to the other. To me, a wonderful description of that is that if a baby is in the stomach of the mother, the belly, and it's nice and warm there, and you're floating, and it's a nice temperature, and the noises from outside are very soft, and you're in that space, it's wonderful. And you get your food on time, you don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to think about, I have to create a job, and I have to make sure I make money, and I have to make sure that I carry all my responsibilities in this life. No, you're in there, you're completely happy, you're completely satisfied. It's actually probably a little bit like heaven. Who knows, maybe that was heaven. Now you're born in this world. Doesn't it mean that when you're born in this world that you just died in the belly of your mom? You just died there. You're not there anymore. You died there. But you're born here. So you died there, you're born here. Well, that's death itself. That's exactly what death is. Your body dies, and you transform yourself to another form of energy, another state of being, which is not comparable, which was there before. You cannot compare it at all. And still, there is still being. So, what is the sadness about? Well, the sadness is usually, we never want to hear this, the sadness is usually about missing the other person, and we're crying for our suffering. We're not crying for the other person. We know the other person is gone and he's in a better place probably. He's in a transformation process and he's gone on. He's gone forth. It's wonderful. So if we cry, and we realize we cry for us, and suddenly we understand it's a little bit of self-pity there. It's a little bit of self-pity. It's because of the attachment that we had to the shape and form of that person, and because of the shape and form of that person, we became attached to it, and we want it to be forever. Well, it won't be forever. You knew that from the start. You know from this body that it's not forever. You know that. It's not forever. You can massage whatever you want. You can do yoga whatever you want. You can eat as healthy as whatever you want. Maybe you will live to be 120. Great. And then ultimately this body will fade away. Or maybe it happens sooner. And maybe by happening sooner, it prevents you to see a lot of suffering that might occur in your lifetime. Who knows? So, if you look at it that way, it becomes a completely different story. It's all about the transformation of energies. It's transformation of energies. Now, if you realize the transformation of energy, that from one moment to the next, to the next, to the next, there's constantly transformation going on. And we see each moment that is an end of a transformation as an ending, but it's actually the new beginning of the next transformation. So each ending is a new start. It's a constant wave. There's actually even a scientific formula for that. So in that sense, I always have to laugh a little bit at people who are atheists and say, oh, there was nothing before I was here, and there's nothing after I'm here, and that's fine by me. Really? And you say that idea is based in science. Well, there's a scientific formula which proves that energy never gets lost. It doesn't not come from anywhere, and it doesn't not go anywhere. It's always there, it just transforms. And in that sense, the Buddha had a nice story, of course. He showed a candle to Ananda. Ananda was actually was a nephew of the Buddha, but it was also one of his favorite students. And Ananda didn't understand a lot of things. He wasn't that clever. Well, who gives a damn if you're so clever? It's not about being so clever to understand anything of these things. He said, look at this candle. He says, if you see this candle from one moment to the next moment, does it give you the impression that that's a constant flame? Yes, says Ananda. That's a constant flame. I can see the flame. It's constantly there. Yes, but we know from science that it's actually an interaction between air, a flame, and a flammable substance. There must be a flammable substance, there must be air, there must be oxygen, and there must be a flame in the first instance that somebody lit. Okay. So now we think, we get the perception it's a constant. We look at the candle, even if you put a candle in front of you when you're meditating and you look at the candle, you think, oh, that's a constant flame. But from 1/10 of a second, 100th of a second to the next 100, it's actually a process that's carrying on and on and on and on. So by explaining this, Ananda suddenly realized that, okay, it's a process. And then he blew out the candle. So is the candle now completely gone? No, the candle is still standing. I can see a shape and form. So that's the dead body. I can still see a shape and form. But it's not burning anymore. There's no more connection between the spirit, between the soul or the energy that actually was connected with that body, or that candle in that case, the body. So now it's just a candle standing there. There's nothing happening. But is that energy gone? Well, if we're in a smaller space, and especially if you're living in the West and you burn your candle in your house with your wonderful thermopane glasses, then you know that somewhere in there is still that energy. There's still the heat of that flame. Can you catch it? No, you can't. You can't grab it anymore. But we know it's there. So now the next day you open the windows and you let it flow through, and there's air flowing through your space. Is it gone now just because you don't know that it's not there anymore? Or has it become one with the universe? Well, it's become one with the universe. Can you still grab one of those aspects of the heat that has been generated? No, you can't. But do you know it's there? Yes, you do. You know it's there, scientifically. So now Ananda understood the fact that if the body dies, it's not completely gone, it has evolved to another form of energy. And now you play with it. And people will tell you, this is your toy, this is yours. Okay, this is my toy. And now you're born, and people will give you a name, and you start to associate yourself with the name. You think, this is me. This is exactly the reason why in Eastern cultures we change our names sometimes, because I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that person that was born so long ago. That is a different person. That person actually is dead. And that's why we change our names. So that person has died, and there's another person in the place of it. But then later on, you get more toys. And of course, usually we will give a little truck or a little car to a boy, and we will give a little doll to a girl. This is your doll, this is your truck. Take care of it, it's yours, it's yours. Okay, now it's yours. If it's yours, be very careful, don't break it. Ooh, not supposed to be breaking it. And if you go and play with your friends, make sure you bring it back. Well, what happens? Usually the toys will break, and usually when you take it to a good friend, even if it's a very good friend and she likes it more than you did, then suddenly the toy is gone. No problem. But the attachment to the toy was the problem. The fact that you thought it was your toy. People always talk about my children, my daughter, my son. Ask your child if they think that they are yours. And I don't talk about being yours in a generally kind of way, like if they cut your genes or whatever. No, are they yours in the sense that they feel they are yours? No, they don't. And especially when they become teenagers. I'm mine. I'm myself. I'm my own person. And what you do is stupid. I know how to do things. And then of course later on they become nearly the same as you, but that's another story. But that means that there is nothing yours. Nothing is specifically yours. But we think things are ours. And this is the attachment that we talk about, which is an attachment that causes ultimately suffering or dissatisfaction. Because we think that things are ours, and when they fade away or we lose them, then it causes suffering. That also means that this whole attachment story is not about detachment in the sense of throwing everything away and not using anything in this world anymore. It's a beautiful world. There's wonderful things in this world. Sure, you can use a truck to move you across a certain distance. You can use an aeroplane to fly to Thailand. You can use your money to buy yourself a little bit of comfort. But it's the attachment to the comfort that causes the suffering. It's the attachment to the truck or the car that causes the suffering. It's not the object itself that causes it, it's your attachment. So if you look very carefully at the attachment, then the suffering will end. And that's one of the most important lessons to realize, that the attachment causes the suffering. And when the attachment is not so great anymore, there will be less suffering. When there is no attachment, and you still have all these objects, you still have a loved one in your life, you still have children in your life, but there is no specific attachment, then there is no cause for misery. Everything is fine. It's all okay. It's fine to have a car. It's fine to have your house. It's fine to be happy with the objects that you have. It's fine. But it's the attachment that causes the suffering. It's not the object that causes the suffering. So it's you yourself that causes suffering. Knowing this is so important because it is the way out of suffering. And the way out of suffering ultimately causes people to be more happy. And being more happy is what METTA is about. All of us that are here right now, as we are sitting, I'm sure everybody wants to be more happy. Nobody says, oh, I don't want to be more happy, I want to be more miserable. Nobody says that. No, everybody wants to be more happy. Even depressed people, they want to be more happy. They just don't know how to be more happy. That's the problem. You don't know how to be more happy. Well, happiness is something that was always there within you. Happiness is not something that you have to find, as some people say, or have to try and go and find happiness. It was always there within you. It is within you that the happiness is. It is a state of being that is already within you. It's not something that is to be accomplished. It's something that you will just have to move towards. It's in there. Go there, relax there, be calm there, be quiet there, and there is happiness in that moment. And that kind of happiness is so special because it's a kind of happiness that ultimately ends your suffering. It can even end the suffering of people in a hunger situation, in a pain situation, in a situation when there's war going on. If you are within yourself, in that calmness of being, in that moment, then all the stuff that happens in this world of appearances have got nothing to do with specifically you yourself. You yourself, your happiness is always there. And you can actually prove this. You can prove it with when you realize there's pain, but you move to a place of happiness within yourself, you don't realize the pain anymore. So the pain is part of the body, and the fact that you're attached to the body, you like the body, you want it to be well, so you feel pain. You feel sadness because of that. You feel suffering because of that. But if you move to that place of quietness, stillness, and calmness, then there is suddenly no more suffering in that moment. Or is that constant? Oh, it's not constant. You have to practice it. So it's a practice of being in that stillness and being so quiet. Now, metta is actually something that you can only really establish once there is a certain state of happiness within yourself. Only when there's a certain state of happiness within yourself, you are willing and able to give. Where does that state of happiness come from? Well, one important aspect of happiness is forgiveness. Forgiveness for all the little things that you have once done wrong. And we're not angels. We're not. We're not angels. We can pretend that we are angels. Oh, I don't have those kind of things. I never did anything bad in my life. Well, yeah, maybe. Look very carefully, look within yourself, and this is what is meant when they talk about in meditation, look at the darkest things about yourself that are there, situations where you haven't acted so nice to other people, situations where you were jealous, situations where you actually reacted to somebody in a way that you either knew was going to cause pain or you could have known that it was going to cause pain. Those situations are always there. And we call those situations either kusala or akusala. And kusala means that you were actually quite handy, you were quite capable of doing those things and very skillful, or you were unskillful. You were very unhandy, you were clumsy, you were actually not being so correct in that moment. That's all it is. And when you start looking at things as kusala and akusala, right, as if they are skillful and unskillful, then it's easier to forgive. Forgive yourself for the unskillful thoughts and actions that you've ever had, and forgive others for unskillful thoughts and actions that they ever had. No problem. Skillful and unskillful. And once that forgiveness factor is there, by realizing it's not as heavy as you think, it's just very simple. It's something that you didn't know. That's what skillful, unskillful means. You didn't know it at that moment. Or maybe you did it on purpose, but you didn't know what the results were. Or you did it on purpose, and you didn't know what the results for you were, which are the karmic consequences. You didn't know what they were. You couldn't fully see, if I do this in this moment, what's going to be the result for me in the future? You didn't know that. If you would know all those things from the moment that you were born, you would have been perfectly skillful, probably. You would have thought, oh, okay, I shouldn't be doing this because that's going to be a bad cause and effect for myself. Oh, no, I shouldn't be thinking those thoughts. That's not very nice. I've got to turn them around. And turning them around is not even that hard because you put the opposite thought in. If you think, I'm jealous of that person because she's got a beautiful body, or she's got wonderful things, or she's got a fantastic job, now I'm jealous of that person. Oh, make yourself content with the fact that that person, wow, you're so beautiful. It's so nice. So nice that you have a great aura around yourself. It's so nice that you feel so good. It's so nice that you have a great job. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you won the lottery. I'm so happy. And that's it. Nothing expected from that. There's nothing that you need from the fact that you feel that. So it's the opposite feeling that you can put in place of the negative feeling that you have. And to realize those negative feelings is actually that you start changing them. You're slowly moving from unskillful to skillful, from unskillful actions to skillful actions, from unskillful thoughts to skillful thoughts, slowly changing yourself around. And that causes that there will be way more forgiveness for yourself and for others, because once you realize that you're in this difficult process which causes you to go from one thought to the next, and sometimes you think things of which you yourself think, I shouldn't be thinking that. That's weird, isn't it? You were the one thinking the thoughts, whoever that you may be. You are the one thinking certain thoughts, and then you're thinking to yourself, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. Yeah, but you are the one thinking those thoughts. You created them. So you can change those thoughts. It doesn't matter. You can just turn them around. But look upon those thoughts as unskillful thoughts and skillful thoughts. Slowly moving away from unskillful and trying to emphasize the skillfulness in your life. So forgiveness is a very important factor in the whole process of metta. Because, very simple, if you cannot forgive yourself for the little unskillful things that you have once done or have done into a certain interaction with other people, how would other people forgive you, and how could you forgive those others of what they have done? So you yourself must find it in yourself to forgive yourself for whatever little unskillful things have happened. And I always mention, and this is just to make you realize how deep this can go, that a person like Adolf Hitler, and a person like Stalin, and a person like Mao Zedong, and all these people that have done horrible things, there is forgiveness for them. That's ridiculous, would you say? But there is forgiveness for them. Okay, they will have to go through a process. They will have to go through a process where they realize their thoughts and actions of whatever they have once done, and there will be remorse. There will be a phase of remorse. Oh, the things I've done, and okay. That is because they have created their own hell. But if you realize that even for people like that there is forgiveness, then for the silly little things that you have ever done in your life, then there's definitely forgiveness. Isn't it? Isn't that so simple? There is definitely forgiveness for the silly little things that you've done. And they're so small in comparison to what happens in the universe and what happens in this world sometimes. They're so small. So forgiveness is a very important aspect of moving towards true loving kindness, true metta. And another aspect is to fully acknowledge the fact that it is okay to have these loving feelings within yourself. It's okay to have a feeling of universal love for whatever may be and whatever is there. Anything and everything deserves to be loved. And then of course you realize that all the animals deserve to be loved. Yes, even that nasty ant that just bit you in your feet when you were walking through the bamboo. Sure, he deserves to be loved. Wonderful teachers always said, it's been green light for 20 years, now I want to try how it is when it's a red light for a little while, so I won't let them bite me. So he put that, how you call that stuff, the citronella oil on him. And funny enough, he came to the idea because I brought a lot of foreigners there, and he said, why do the foreigners all smell the same? It's because they got citronella on them, sir. Because they didn't want to get bit by the mosquito. So he tried it, and it worked. Wonderful. But it doesn't mean that now it's a green light for every crawler and creeper to bite you. It just means, try to be loving and kind to everything that is there. Well, if you realize that, It means it will be very difficult for you to eat meat, because if you fully realize that how meat comes into play, meat is not a product. We always think that meat is a product. And why do we think meat is a product? Because we distance ourselves from it. We call something a steak. It's not a steak. It's a bit of a cow that you put in a little nice packaging in the supermarket. It's not a steak. It never was a steak. The cow never thought I'm a steak. The cow was just wandering around doing his own business, and he was feeling perfectly happy until somebody came along and said, get into the truck and we're going to take you to the slaughterhouse. So that doesn't mean a thing. Now, does that mean you suddenly all have to urgently become vegetarians? No, that's not the idea. The idea is to be very conscious of that which you're eating, where it comes from. And the more you realize that, the more you will realize what you're doing, and what you're doing with these animals, and what you're doing to the earth, because that's another big factor. And it's the second biggest polluter, the meat industry, and what you're doing to yourself, because of the hormones that they get, because of the antibiotics that they get. So it's a kind act of loving kindness towards yourself as well, to not eat it. But those are slow processes. They are processes that slowly will transform you. I have never said to people, oh, you must suddenly stop eating meat. No, be very conscious about it, and be very conscious of what to eat instead. Because there's lots of things that you can eat instead that actually help sustain the body. Because, as the Buddha very clearly said, it is important to sustain the body. The body needs to be sustained because you need to live out a certain lifespan in this world. So you try to sustain the body. So that's an act of loving kindness towards yourself and towards animals. Then there's the act of loving kindness of people in your direct proximity. And some of these people are not even specifically friends. You know, somebody doesn't have to be a friend for you to be kind to them. If you look at the girl in the supermarket who does the checkout, and I love it because I recently talked about it, and I think it's so funny because they work through a certain program. It's a program they do. Anything else there? And you want me now? And here's do you want to pay cash or by a credit card? They go through a certain program. It's like they're sort of locked into the computer there. They're not living their own life anymore at that moment. Now you start acknowledging them. You look them in the eye and you say, how are you? Okay, I'm actually, yeah, I'm okay. You look a little bit tired. Yeah, it's been a long day. Now they start to open up. Okay, I wish you a very good day, the rest of the day. I hope you really have a nice day. Wow, you changed somebody's life at that moment. That's what you're doing. You change somebody's life. And they don't have to be your friends or relatives to do that. You can do that with anybody and everybody that you meet and encounter. Because that's the wonderful thing about this life. You have an effect on everything that happens around you. And that's loving kindness. Loving kindness is acknowledging the other person and realizing that they are also stuck in the same kind of attachments that you have. You need to make money. You need to make sure that there's bread on the table. You need to make sure that your kids are provided for and they can go to school. So that's all very simple stuff, basic things that we all have. But you can also release yourself more and more from that because it's not that important. We think it's very important, but slowly we can withdraw ourselves from that. And there is a certain kind of slavery about that in society. And that slavery exists very simple from the fact we are born, we need certain things, and now we come to our adult life. Oh, now we need a car, so we finance. Now we need a house, and we finance. Now we need a new computer, and we finance. And by doing that, we enslave ourselves slowly to the system. You can free yourself from the system. By doing that, you are actually moving away from all the attachments that are there. I don't need a beautiful car, I don't need a beautiful house. I need exactly that which I can pay for myself. If I have it, I can take it, and if I don't have it, I don't want it, I don't need it. But slowly doing that causes us to enslave ourselves. And the Buddha actually even mentioned that. Can you imagine? We're talking about a man who lived 2,600 years ago, and he said, we're like Carabao. We're walking in circles, pounding the rice, and the more we keep walking, the deeper that little gutter that we're walking in becomes, and the harder it becomes to get out of it. So the more we're walking in that same circle, the more deep it gets, and the harder it will be to get out of it. Now you're throwing away that thing that is around your neck, and you're just releasing yourself, and you're going out of it, and you say, I don't want any of that anymore. Oh, does that mean you don't need anything in this life? No, I already said that. You can use all wonderful things that are here, but to the extent that it's in a nice balance, that it's enough. There is enough. And this enoughness is so important, because once you have enough, everything is enough. I have enough. So if I have enough, then I don't want what the other has. If I have enough, I don't have to be jealous for what you have. Ferrari out of the new garage where he just bought it, and has an accident. Wow. Okay, so the whole perception of that which he thought was going to bring him happiness is actually causing him to be in suffering, not a cause for happiness. The cause for happiness, and here we go again, is within yourself. It is within you. That's where the cause of happiness is. And you become very happy when you have a lot of metta in you, when you have a lot of loving kindness in you, when you give more than you expect back. When you constantly give, you feel more and more happy. You feel more happy within yourself. And that's why the Buddha even explained very clearly that through loving kindness you will sleep more quietly, you will sleep much better, you have a much better sleep cycle. Through loving kindness you will relax way more, because you're not afraid if people will take something from you, like a microphone. You don't have to be afraid. It's going to come back to you somehow. If you have metta and therefore radiate this feeling, you don't have to be afraid that people don't love you, because you will automatically be loved. It's the weirdest thing there is. And it's not the kind of love that is an earthly love, because, sorry to bring you the news, earthly love is always ending and always expecting. It's always expecting something from you. Look at the expectations that you put onto another person in, for instance, a love affair. You're expecting the other person to live up to whatever you think that dream person is. Oh, he's such a nice guy, he must be wonderful, and this and that, and he will bring flowers and tell me nice things and whisper in my ear, I'm so fantastic. Yeah, that's perception. Now he doesn't do it. And it causes dissatisfaction. Oh, she's such a beautiful woman. She's so fantastic. Oh, look at the shape of the woman. Look at her smile. And she must be happy all the time. And she will satisfy me completely. And she will whisper sweet things to me that my mother didn't even say to me. And probably her voice is going to be like an angel singing. What's the matter with you, boy? What are you looking at? Okay. The mirror is broken. The dream is destroyed. There is not that perception. Is that person wrong? Because that's the other question. Is that person wrong because it cannot live up to our perception? Nothing wrong about it. That person is still a beautiful person. It just couldn't live up to our expectations. And we put our expectations into the other. And now the other cannot live up to our expectations. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that other person. It's another person. just patience that you have of that other person. So then you can let go. And when you can let go, it turns out that you will be way more relaxed. The depth of a relationship is the freedom that you can let each other have. That's the depth of a relationship. And because the other person knows how to be responsible with the freedom that they get, that's how a relationship works very well. And that means it's exactly the same as with every relationship, because it doesn't mean that it's about that loving relationship, that earthly love. It means that it's a universal love. It's a love that is not bound by the boundaries of our own perceptions. I will say that again. It's a love that's not bound by the boundaries of our own perceptions. And that is universal love. Universal love is not in a tight spot of it must be like this, it must be like that, it should live up to my expectations. If now I have been radiating loving kindness, then that person should change completely. No. The one that changes completely is you. You have radiated loving kindness. And only if your loving kindness has become perfected, that's very important. Once your loving kindness has become perfected, it will have that effect on the world. And I jokingly discredit sometimes the fact that people will sit and meditate for world peace. Great. I love it. Has the war in yourself ended yet? Because if the war in yourself has ended, you might be able to meditate for world peace. Is 1,000,000 compared to a normal person. But 2 enlightened beings is 1,000,000 to 1,000,000. So that's 1,000,000,000,000. Enormous amount. That's 2 enlightened. Now there's 3 enlightened beings. Can you imagine what the effect of the world can be with 3 enlightened beings? If they're all in unison at the same moment, radiate loving kindness, that's incredible. Now, I'm not telling you you have to immediately become enlightened. It would be wonderful if it could happen like that, but that won't suddenly happen here. But what can happen is the realization, hey, it's all about me. It's about my loving kindness. It's about my possibility to really get into that state of peace and surrender and loving kindness. It's about me. So the fact that people try this is wonderful. I respect it, but I'm also looking upon it a little bit like, yeah, okay, but how about that war in yourself? Stop the war in yourself. And once that's stopped, and that forgiveness for yourself is there, then there will be forgiveness for others. And whenever I say that, forgiveness for others, I realize that there are situations where it's very hard to be forgiving. People who have been abused when they were young, it's very hard to forgive the person who did that to you. But ultimately, that is possible. Ultimately, that is possible. It is possible to forgive somebody who did something horrible to you. It is possible to forgive somebody who stole all you had, who took all your stuff from you. Stuff. I always pronounce the word as if it's a dirty word, because to me it is a funny word, stuff, when people take your stuff from you. But there is possibility for forgiveness. There is possibility even for people who have done evil acts. It's hard. It's very difficult to come to the accomplishment and to the realization that, yes, I can forgive that person. And try to realize that sometimes that kind of forgiveness does not have to be proclaimed physically. You don't have to go to somebody physically and say, whatever you did to me when I was a child, I forgive you. You don't have to do that, because it's all energy. So if you do it in your meditation, if you do it in your practice, it is already a transformation process that you're starting. You are already starting the process. So you don't have to physically go somewhere. And if somebody is already dead, which can happen, you know, somebody did something horrible to you, maybe your dad or your mom or whatever, or now you feel it was horrible anyway, and you want to forgive that person. Well, it doesn't matter where they are, because a little ceremony will help you to sort of bring that out of yourself. A ceremony, and it's often misunderstood, a little ceremony is only the materialization of that which lives within you. Something you feel very deep within you, you want to bring it out. You want to bring it into a process of transformation. Well, simple. Take a little picture of the person, burn a little candle, burn a little incense, sit down on your little pillow in a very quiet spot and place, and now you're starting the transformation process. Because don't forget, it's not only about the forgiving towards the other, it's also about the transformation within yourself, to get rid of that anger, to get rid of the anxiety that's a part of that, to get rid of the suffering that has to do with it. So ultimately, it is for your own good as well. Are you just doing it for your own good? No, you're doing it for the good of everything. Because once you become an accomplished person, everything around you will resonate in that feeling. Everything that comes close to you will resonate in that feeling of happiness, and love, and peace, and quiet. Everything resonates because we are just pure energy. And if we are definitely pure energy, then everything will resonate in that same energy. It's a vibration. It's a constant radiation of that energy that you have. And everything can radiate with you. Now, here comes an important point to realize. Once you have that radiation, once you have that METTA radiation, once you have that feeling that radiates and pervades everything, then everything around you will slowly get into that same cycle of radiation of METTA. So that means you can change the neighborhood you live in. You can change the world we live in. You can change relatives that have problems or whatever. You can change that. Not by thinking, oh, I must change this and that person is causing so much sadness for others. That's not how that works. It works by just being completely in that moment in full METTA, and to fully realize that feeling and to fully try to radiate it from yourself. And it starts with forgiveness, and it starts with also being loving and kind towards yourself. Because if you are not loving and kind towards yourself, how can you be loving and kind towards others? It's impossible. So if you are kind to yourself and fully accept the way you are, and that you know that there are still some things that are little rough edges, as I would like to call them, little rough edges that you still would like to smoothen out a little bit, well, that's okay. There's no problem with that. You can still radiate love and kindness, and you can still practice, and I like to call it a practice. It's a practice because during the practice you evolve. During the practice you transform yourself as well. When you, for instance, let's say your ankle starts hurting or whatever, and you're sitting in your meditation, at first you just realize it for what it is, and after a while it might bother you too much. Well, don't be here, don't be with the movement. You are still doing the exercise, and you can still move the leg without being with the leg. So it's like I'm doing a certain exercise, I'm here, and I can still put my feet forward or whatever, you know, it's no problem. I'm still here, I'm not there. So don't worry about that too much. Just be kind to yourself. That's what it's all about anyway. Just sit very quietly at first. yoga breath in, that means start in the abdomen and slowly up. It's a sort of a wave, and then out through the mouth. And again. And by doing so, you calm the breath, and now you let it occur naturally. Don't interfere with the breath. The breath is, and has always been. And as you sit very calmly and quietly, you try to realize what loving kindness means for you. To in front of your third eye. And go inside to the center of your head, the seat of the third eye. Concentration go down to your throat chakra, exactly there where you feel that lump in your throat, in the center of that. And let your concentration go down to your heart chakra, behind your chest bone, within the body. Having arrived there, you realize the breath, but you remain in the heart chakra. You will find that it is as if the heart chakra opens as a flower and closes again. your entire posture is relaxed. There is no stress in your shoulders and neck. Complete relaxation. And even your facial expression becomes calm, loving, and kind. Nearly smiling. Love and kindness, metta, compassion, empathy, sympathetic joy. Love for all sentient beings. Love for yourself. Try to make it so that it is as if breathing in happens through the heart chakra and breathing out happens. As if you're breathing through the heart chakra. As you breathe in, it is as if you accumulate metta in the heart chakra. And if you breathe out, it's as if you radiate it through the front. In, accumulate, out, radiating it through the front. And as you're doing this, without trying to create images, you let it occur, the person or persons you love most in this world. You breathe in and out through the heart chakra. You just realize, person or persons I love the most in this life. And next, your closest relatives. You don't have to create a picture, you know who they are. And you breathe in and out your heart chakra. In, accumulating, out, radiating. If it hurts a little bit, don't bother. Just means that your heart chakra is making quick revolvings. You let occur to you your best friends. You breathe in and out of your heart chakra. METTA paramata parami sampano meti metta karuna mututa upeka parami sampano iti piso bhagawa iti pi. Lift your left hand up from your lap and put it crosswise over your heart chakra. so that exactly the chakra in your hand touches our chakra. Lift the right hand slowly up and put it across that hand so that those chakras are on top of each other. I strongly wish that this meditation has a positive effect for me, for others, all sentient beings, all spirits, and all devas. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, Parami Sampanno. Open your hands as if it's a lotus flower. And feel a certain calm and coolness inside. You can lay your hands back. Bring your concentration up to the throat chakra. Up to the third eye. Come out at the front. Take a full breath in whilst you raise your shoulders and let go. Let everything slide up, all the feelings, and one more time. And calmly come out of this meditation. Questions that this raises for you? Might be. I was thinking, is it a good idea to do a couple of mantras? Yeah. You guys like that? Itam nyati nang otu sukita untuk nyata yo. Imina punya kami nama bala sama kamu satang sama kamu hotu yawa nibbana patiya. Kayena vaca citena pamadena maya katanga cayang kama me pante buri panjata tagata. Sabidiya viwacanto asa paroko avinasato mate pauawan Sukiati kayoko apawapi watana silisa nicang utapacaino cataro tamma watanti ayo wano sukang palang nipanang. Sabitiyo viwacanto saparoko vinasato amate pawawantarayo sukiti kayoko apawapi watana silisani jambuta pacaino cataro tamang watantiya yo wano asukang palang nipanang. Sapitiyo viwacanto saparoko vinasato amate pawat wantarayo sukiti kayoko pawapi watana silisa nica Wotapacaino pawapi watana silisa nicang wotapacaino pawapi watana silisa nicang wotapacaino cataro tamang watante ayo wano asukang palang nipanang para nipanang paramang sukang nipanang paramang sukang putalatanang tamaratana sanggaratana satu okasa api wate misatu okasa. Now it's okay. Yeah. Well, rest me to thank you all for being here and being present. And I wish you a couple of other wonderful days here, which I'm sure will happen. And I hope that you will have some positive effect from this. And yes, of course, you are allowed to practice this at home. It's not very difficult, and it's not so not something dangerous, so you can easily practice it. I think it's even on the YouTube channel. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think it is. Also, a lot of the mantras and the chants are on there, so if you are at home and suddenly you think, oh, how did we do that? What was the tone of that mantra? You can find them back on there. And maybe we will meet again soon, sometime, somewhere around here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annata, and your guests here, and today you underlined to us the essence of METTA.
Mm.
And I think it's the best way to kick off our event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And wish you wonderful days together.
So we have Kenneth Chen, who's here from China, who just stepped in as well, and you have some words to say, Ken?
Well, I got a lot, but let's keep it tomorrow.
Yeah, we have a lot to share with you, and I wish to thank you again for your wisdom,
Yes.
your energy, and
Welcome. Most
the
welcome.
positive light that you shed to kick off our event.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you again.
Yeah. Okay.
So supper is going to be served at 5:30, so that's I think in 10 minutes or so. So you know where it is, just right there in front where we had our snack. And if there are any questions, just let me know if anything you need or that I can do for you. Just don't hesitate. Thank you all for being a part of this amazing event.
Thank you.
Thank you.